it's Pete with BackDraft Bikes. Today we get to review this Betty, the 2025 Honda Africa Twin. Let's rock.
Excellent!
The 2025 Honda Africa Twin. Man, this thing has been going strong for a long time, and I'm finally going to take a demo ride. I've actually never done this before. Just to talk a little bit about the history, this was born from the Paris-Dakar Rally dominance in the late 80s and 90s with the old big bore Hondas that they ran. It's one of the few big adventure bikes that still carries that rally-bred look, although it really reminds me of my BMW GS Trophy that I had with the same style of paint. A couple things we're going to talk about on this review though is why this bike is a little different than the other bikes in its class. One of them is it has very long travel suspension, especially in the rear, and it's got that tall stance, and also, I will just point this out right away, it's not super wide. I have my Pan America, I've had several BMWs and Triumphs, and again, this bike right here has a very nice profile as far as being thin and easy to whip around. We say this is a 1200, but it's actually 1084 cc's, and this twin produces 100 horsepower and 77 pound-feet of torque, and Honda's not shy about their numbers, by the way, which is kind of refreshing. It's very smooth on the highway from what I've been told, but still has enough punch to grind through the twisties, and we're going to take this on a pretty extended test ride with a group in a few minutes, which I really can't wait for. Kind of cool things too about this as well, it has cornering ABS, traction control, wheelie control, rear ABS, and you can turn it off obviously for the dirt. There's multiple riding modes on this as well. And let me fire up the computer while I'm right here. Honda uses different terms for them, but they use Tour, Urban, Gravel, Off-Road, and then you can also add a custom one. Cruise control is standard. Cool thing here, Apple CarPlay and Android is actually available on some of these. And I apologize for the vertical lines, the camera captures them. As you can see, a lot of information at your tips. And here's one of the cool things I really like about this bike. Very easy to use controls with gloves on. So there's no problem selecting different things as you go through. This is in tour mode. Plethora of settings that are at your feet are just absolutely amazing. I say feet, it's on your fingertips. Kickstand down warning, gear shift lever. You actually have a temperature gauge. Everything right there, screenshot, really easy to see. Does this bike live up to the hype? I mean, it's got everything all the other bikes have now, electronically adjustable front and rear suspension. In fact, setting the preload and having, you know, preload settings for yourself, a passenger, and luggage is actually pretty cool. One thing that these bikes have, this bike does not have, but a few of the other ones do, and hopefully I'll try to get on one at some point, is an automatic transmission. Now, I have not bought into that technology yet. I haven't been able to make myself say, I'm gonna ride a bike that you can't shift. But the folks here say, actually, you can override the manual, the automatic side of it, and turn it into a manual, and it just doesn't have a clutch. Pretty cool. This is available in Adventure Sports ES trim with a 6.5 gallon tank, which is what we're looking at right now. Also, this has a taller seat, so 33 to 34 inches inseam is kind of what you need. It can be a little intimidating for shorter riders. This is also heavier than the midweight bikes like the Transalp, which we review on this channel, and the Tenere 700, especially when you get all this stuff on it. But I mean, look at this bike. It's beautiful. It's a work of art. I mean, let's go. Let's take this thing for a ride. Honda Africa Twin really goes back to like the Dakar rally days when Honda was dominating. The Paris-Dakar had a big outfitted Honda, and it seems like they brought this bike back in a different form for the Honda Africa Twin. And I remember the first time I saw one of these, I was in a dealership and I was like, what in the world is that thing? And shortly after the first model, I saw that they had the electronic shift model, which I was quite surprised at. I have no idea where we're going. All right, we're back. I guess the tour guide missed his turn. Oh, nice. Thank you, lady. Thank you. So here we are. We're on Honda's flagship. This is their off-road mecca. We were on the Transalp before, and sweet bike, really felt good, but a little cheesy on some of the controls, feeling quite a bit of vibration in the handlebars from the engine, not the tires, 100%. Lack of low-end grunt was really pronounced with that engine, but if you wound it up, that bike had plenty of power. So again, this is not a Transalp review. You can see that on our channel. This is the Africa Twin, but I bring that up for an important reason, because Honda's really trying to make a statement with the adventure or the ADV world that, hey, we make motorcycles that work, and we really like the ADV line. So they've got the Transalp, they've got a model below that. Of course, dirt bikes are like their meat and potatoes. And then the Africa Twin, and that Africa Twin kind of sits on the top of the mountain. If you remember when the Africa Twin came out, it really was a revolutionary bike at the time, because Honda was like trying to compete with the GS. In my opinion, Honda was trying to compete with the GS and say, like, listen, we know what we're doing when it comes to riding these type of bikes. This is what we do, and we're good at it. So I remember going into the local Honda dealer and seeing one, and I sat on it and I said, what a cool bike. It's a motorcycle that will do really good on the road, but you can also whip it down some pretty gnarly class 2 roads, if you will, or class 4 roads, depending on where in the country you're at. And you know, it's going to handle it okay. You're not going to have a problem. So here we are. We're still on the same platform, but obviously it has been totally reworked. And let me just go through a couple things that are very impressive to me about this bike. I've been riding it for a little while now. I know we're with a group, so I have to kind of behave. I have a tail right behind me, the Honda police. But let me just lay down a few things about what I have seen riding on this bike so far. First off, its road manners are really, really good. And we have a really chunky set of Michelin Battle Axe tires on here, and they are not good on the road, especially on these heavy bikes. Like, you can feel it. The bike wants to dip when you ride. It's not, these tires aren't really well suited for the road. And I had a set of these for like however many miles they lasted, and I don't like them. However, we're about to go onto some dirt roads up here, and these tires are going to really shine, in my opinion, because when you get into the chonky wonky, you need something with a little bit of meat, and that's where these come into play. Comparing this to, again, the other lines that Honda has, you'll see a big difference with this motor, which I've noticed even right now at 2,500 RPMs, and just rolling on, and I'm in 5th gear, mind you, rolling onto it. I mean, it just does a great job. Now, I'm gonna put this into a little bit better of a mode for what we're about to get into, and that's Honda's gravel mode. Honda's gravel mode gives you a lot better stability when it comes to this chunky stuff, and I can get on this with no problem at all. The bike does not mind the washboard. If you're in the road or urban mode, which urban mode, I'm not sure if that's like a cross between road and sport. I'm not exactly sure. I didn't quite catch the memo from HQ, but the road mode is severe on the throttle control when you get into stuff that's loose. And so I found myself immediately feeling the throttle just completely shut down. Like what I just did with the washboard, I wouldn't have been able to do if I'm not in the mode. Just saying that piece, I find that all of the Honda lines that are in their ADV market are very reliant on the traction control mode they're in. This bike, when you step up to this bike, you get a lot more features that lend itself to being on road but having a real off-road worthy machine, like cornering ABS, traction control, multi-discipline traction control, I should say, because you can turn it up and down like I just showed you. Also roll control. So I mean, it's just, this bike has got a very high amount of technology on it. The shocks are all electronically dampening. The rear on this is electronically dampening, but the Africa Twin is well known for industry leading travel. Don't quote me on this, but I want to say 200 millimeter travel. I mean, it's a lot. So this is a pretty bumpy road right here. As you can hear, there's There's quite a bit of rattling coming from the dashboard on this bike, so I'm not sure what's up with that, but I don't feel uncomfortable at all on this bike on this chunky stuff. It's not a problem for it at all. And we're actually a couple up the road a piece here. There's actually a couple sections that are pretty gnarly, and you'll see those when we get up to them. I really like the engine on this bike. I immediately fell in love with it as soon as I pulled the clutch out and felt the power band when I got on the road. This bike has a lot more low-end grunt than their smaller engines, which you tend to have to wind up a lot more. This really feels like a V-twin. It's got the same power feel that my Pan America has, actually, which is surprising because the Pan America's numbers are a little bit more in the power delivery department than this bike. Price point on this bike is worth talking about as well. Honda is known for their reliability, and in my opinion, reliability means something to me. Like, I will pay more for a bike that's not going to break down because it's not going to break down and I don't have to mess with it. Honda, every machine I've ever owned from Honda, from small engines up, has been really bulletproof. And if you watch my channel, one of my sidekicks on the ride show that we have, Grandpa 5000, he runs a Goldwing, and he had on one of his Goldwings over 150,000 miles and really did nothing to it. So it's a testament, when you buy a Honda, it's going to be bulletproof reliability. Now, that goes with my next statement here, okay? This bike, I believe, 17,000, 18,000, somewhere around there. It's really not a lot of money for what you're getting. And I say it's really not a lot of money, and you're probably saying that's a lot of money for a motorcycle you're going to take off-road. My Pan America is what, 27,000? The BMW GS's adventure models, you're 30,000 pretty much all day long by the time you add stuff in. The cool thing about this bike, the price point is there. It has Honda reliability, but it's absolutely loaded with features. So you don't have to add the pro ride modes. It comes with it. You don't have to add a lot of other things to the bike. It already has them. I do really like the display on this as well, and it will do CarPlay. So if I have my phone synced up, I have turn-by-turn Waze directions if I want them. So here's a couple things I've noticed on this bike, though, that I wanted to bring out on the ride here. If you can see here, there's like a little mini odometer, speedometer, gear indicator screen, and then we have the actual screen itself. I don't understand why they have both of those. Like, I think one would be just fine. I don't need the 1980s Casio watch screen below the color TFT. I don't know why Honda decided to do that. My only guess, and I can't sync my phone to this, but my only guess is maybe when you do CarPlay, you lose some of the features, maybe. I don't know. I wonder if that's the reason why. A couple other things, though, that I did notice on this bike, just to go over a few features. The preload on the suspension is selectable on the fly based on passengers, yourself, or luggage. So that's kind of cool. My Harley does it automatically. It's going to weight sense, but this actually gives you the ability to totally lock it in and say, hey, I want to know what I've got on the back. The other thing on this screen, you get a tremendous amount of information just by using the directional keypad here with your thumbs. But I will say this, one of the things I didn't really care for was trying to figure out how to get into the ride modes and select the other screens. I had a really hard time with that because there's no dedicated button, and Honda loves buttons. Like, if you look at a Goldwing, it looks like you're looking at the dashboard of a Honda Accord. And on this bike, nothing's marked. It's literally all going back to the D-pad. So to select mode, you have to push the arrow button up. These buttons on the side to side select within the screen, and then you can tip off with enter and backwards. So The directional pad has up and down arrows and then a side-to-side switch, which is a little confusing. I had a struggle with that for a minute before I got on the bike. I was like, how in the heck does this work? Because it looks like it's 4 arrows, but it's actually not. You end up cycling sideways. So you can see trip A, trip B, a bunch of other things like what you have for range, your battery, the date and time, in case you forgot what day it was. And on the fourth side, there's a bunch of settings, which unfortunately, and I wish I knew this before the video, but I don't know what HSTC is. I'm assuming HS stands for something. TC is traction control, I'm assuming. And I think that gives you a level of reaction. W, I don't know what that stands for. Water? Weight? I do like also on the screen where it does give you instant visual notifications that you have your ABS off instead of some flashing yellow light, which some of the bikes do, which I can't stand. Also, it gives you an analog temperature gauge. Instead of a temperature Fahrenheit Celsius reading, it actually tells you where on the graph from low to high you are, which is, to me, is valuable. Red line on this motor is 8,000, as you can see. The smaller bike up there, the Transalp, red line's at 9, so you do get a little less revs, but you're talking much bigger cylinders, so I mean that's kind of to be expected. As far as braking on this goes, the brakes are actually really responsive. And again, this bike is a little on the heavy side for a bike that you're going to take off-road, but it's not ridiculous. As far as comfort goes on this bike, because I do like to put the miles down, I think the seat is a little bit hard, and all the Hondas I've ridden have that same characteristic, but I think this seat is actually the best of all of the off-road bikes that I've ridden that, as far as comfort goes. Vibration into the handlebars from the road is medium at best. It's not over the top, but it's definitely noticeable. We're still dealing with a key switch like an 18th century jailer. Everybody else has got fobs by now. And this bike does come with electronic shift, so you can have a clutchless bike if you desire. The clutches on all these Hondas like absolutely release at the top of the charts. Again, the low end on this is really punchy. What I'd really like to do with one of these bikes is take it for an extended ride, like an overnight trip, to really get used to the handling and the rideability of it. I can tell you from riding this bike for about an hour though, I really do like it. And this would be a bike that I would consider purchasing for sure. Thanks for not pulling out and killing us. Again, just getting back to this, if you really truly are looking for an intercontinental long way round bike, I mean, you could, any of these big adventure bikes will do it. This is a solid bike because it's a Honda and it's bulletproof, and that we love about it. But I mean, why not just get a GS and call it a day, right? If you're like me and people ask you if you need therapy or help because you're riding your motorcycle too much, and you'll ride it in any condition and you don't care, these type of bikes are great. But don't think you're going to throw these down a single track because they're just heavy and they're big. I mean, they can handle it, but after you dump this bike a few times, do you really want to pick it back up? Also, that being said, trying to turn around or getting out of a mud hole with one of these bikes, man, it's brutal on the body. And guess what? Welcome to adult life. You have to get up and go to work in the morning, right? Again, I'm just being brutally honest. If you're going to do a big adventure bike, just know that these bikes aren't the greatest for going down through the woods and just partying on. These bikes are more designed for, I want to do a long distance ride, a lot of rides, to maybe some moto camping on the way, and a couple roads like this. And this bike will be just fine. It's gonna excel at that. All of the big bikes in this class have their idiosyncrasies. Some of them are much better off-road because of ride modes and selectability and the tires they come with. but they're all very, 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 very close. I will tell you one thing I like about this bike that sets it apart from the others. First off, Honda, so it's reliable, but the profile of this bike is nice. It's a little bit wide because you have a big gas tank, 6.5 gallons on this, but the profile is not GS wide, so it's manageable. And I love it. I absolutely love this size, and that's why one of the reasons why I have my Pan America now, and I'm like, wow, this bike is so much better as far as size wise goes. But this bike right here is definitely a contender, and if you're not going to get into it for like crazy off-road stuff, this is a great bike, and I would totally consider buying it. So that's my thoughts on this bike, the walk around. I know I'm rambling now, but for the price point, you can't do any better than this bike, and I would certainly take this over a Super Tenere. I would certainly take this over a CF Moto Creation, and I would take this over I hate to say it, but I would take this over the Tiger Explorer. I would. So, and I'm totally fogged up. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this, and thanks for listening. If you've ridden one of these bikes, I'd be curious to know what you thought about it. Feel free to chuck it down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe because it helps us stay alive out here. And as always, ride safe.